Hi folks, today we're going to be talking to Jody about work camping. One of the biggest things most of us are concerned about in van dwelling life is how am I going to support myself? Very few of us are rich. Quite a few of us have an income through Social Security, through a pension, or through disability, but a lot of us too have no income whatsoever. We're still too young. I was too young. I happened to have a pension, but it didn't quite cover all my costs, so I went to work camping. Work camping is a very good option. It's a great job, generally, not always, but generally, and you get to make money and then live free. You work part of the year, you're free part of the year. Today we're going to talk to Jody about her work camping experiences because they're really fairly typical of what you can find as a work camper. So if your big fear of van dwelling or nomad living is, oh, I can't pay for it, how am I going to live? One question I get all the time is, can I afford to be a van dweller? And my answer is always, how can you afford not to be a van dweller? You can live better, happier, with less money living this way than you ever could, struggling paycheck to paycheck in a town. So let's welcome Jody and talk about her experience with work camping. Welcome, Jody.
Thank you.
And give us a little background on you and your life. Were you rich when you decided to become a nomad?
No,
No?
not by any means. No. I worked as a chef in a restaurant. I painted. I was an artist also.
Selling your artwork.
Selling my artwork. And lived paycheck to paycheck. You know, I lived on maybe $18,000 or $19,000 a year. Okay, so,
which is very typical of most of us.
Yep, and had nothing to show for it. Nothing. You know, some debt.
Yeah, some debt.
Some debt,
that was great.
and some wants, and you know.
And it was just all going into your housing.
Yes, the majority of it. Housing and recreation, you know, and then you just, I think when you aren't living in a tiny space, you tend to spend more money on junk,
Yes.
you know, or stuff that you don't really need.
Stuff.
Stuff. Clothes, things, yeah. So, but $19,000 was comfortable for me. But when I switched to this van dwelling life, I knew I needed to work. I have to work. I have to pay for my life.
You're young. You don't have Social Security or pension.
And I won't for many, 20 more years probably, if I'm lucky.
If it's still there.
If it's still there. But so I just investigated online, like what are the options? I had been living in a seasonal tourist town, so I understood how tourism works. I went online and started investigating, you know, how can I do this elsewhere? How can I do this where I want to visit? Or where are the jobs and do I want to visit there? And I found a couple of websites that have become, you know, my resources. One being workcamper.com, the other one being coolworks.com. Very different websites. Very, very different. So they have different flavors of jobs coming through them, and I think that between those two, I kind of find everything I want.
So you'd already decided to become a nomad and live in your van of some kind, and needed to find work and found these two websites and explored them.
Yeah.
So tell us about the jobs you found on them.
The first job I took as a work camper was in Alaska. It was through coolworks.com.
And I should have to throw in that everyone dreams of going to Alaska, and you were going to go there and get paid while you were there.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And not only get paid, but get paid to be flown in.
They flew you in?
Yes.
From the States?
I paid for it up front, and then if I stayed for my contract, they would reimburse me the cost of my flight there and back.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great deal that is.
Very doable. Took a job at a convenience store, if you will, although it's much more than that. In Alaska, it's everything. It's the store that had everything you need.
Well, tell us where it's at.
Cooper Landing.
Cooper Landing.
Alaska.
Which is a great big town.
No.
No?
It's a town of 200.
200, okay.
But
in a really ugly place,
in
right?
the most beautiful place in the world.
I'll agree. I've been there, and it is.
On the Kenai Peninsula. And it happens to be the salmon fishing capital of the peninsula. So
Yes.
you have thousands of tourists coming to this tiny town to fish for salmon and rainbow trout.
And we might add, they're coming in from all over the world.
All over the world.
All over the world, because it's probably the best salmon fishing on the planet.
Yes, yes. And so, consequently, the 200 people that live there obviously can't take care of all these tourists, so they have to hire from the lower 48. And they go out of their way. I got paid so well to be there. I ended up not staying at the job I originally took. It was a great job, but it was too loud for me. I just needed something quieter. So I ended up being offered a job in housekeeping at a bed and breakfast that catered to fly fishermen. It was perfect for me, made tons of money. I came home with about $8,000 in my pocket after all my expenses and buying a van while I was there.
So because they flew you in, did they put you up in a room at the lodge?
No. The first job I took, there was a cabin that I could rent for like $200 a month. And when I decided not to have that job anymore, I bought a van in Alaska. Used it. I took a job as a camp host. My only duty was to open the gate and close the gate. There was no camping there. It was more of a security guard job. So I stayed there for free, lived for free.
And you did both jobs?
Did both jobs.
At the camp host, opening and closing the gate?
Yeah.
And oh wow.
Housekeeping. Yeah,
wow.
I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get paid for the camp host. It was just a free place to live. Finding jobs is an easy thing, especially if you're going to a tourist town. They always need more employees if you're a decent employee.
Absolutely. And you would look back on that summer as just one of the best times ever.
What an adventure, right?
Right.
You know, it's like nothing here. It really is just wilderness and remote and beautiful and easy to do. I don't know. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And so tell us about your second job.
So my second job I got through workcamper.com.
Okay.
I was uncertain about it. I'd heard about it. It was for the sugar beet harvest in the North Dakota area. Wasn't quite sure what I was getting into, but WorkCamper, that website is very neat in that they'll do what's called a webinar. So the people that put on the beet harvest put on an hour-and-a-half talk about what the beet harvest was, answered 90% of your questions you might have about what you were getting into. Signed up for that, went up to North Dakota at the end of September and worked for 3 weeks. 12-hour days, rain or shine, and it's 24/7. There's 2 shifts running, constant. And what an amazing experience that was. We just harvested sugar beets. We didn't actually harvest them. People think you're going up there and pulling beets out of the ground.
Right.
What you're doing is you're at the sugar plant, basically unloading the semi-trucks. So 600,000 semi-trucks come through full of sugar beets, and you are part of a process to get them unloaded and stacked into piles to be processed.
So it wasn't physically exhausting. I mean, you weren't actually pulling plants out of the ground.
No, you're not on the ground harvesting.
What was your job?
My job was as a pile operator. So there's this 300-foot machine called a beet piler, and I was brave enough to volunteer to be trained as a pile operator. So I was up 2 stories high in this machine, running the operation basically. Had no training whatsoever, no idea how to do this. I've never done heavy machinery. But the foreman on site said, hey, it's not hard, just do it. You can do this. So I got hired on as a pile operator because I went to the training and learned how to do it. There are other jobs that are much more labor intensive on the ground crew. You're basically directing the semi-trucks, so a lot of hand motioning. And
you're on your feet 12 hours a day.
Yeah, everybody is except bobcat drivers, which is another job you can get. everybody's on their feet for 12 hours a day. That's probably the hardest part. But you're moving. They give you liberal breaks.
So they were concerned about you. They weren't there getting every little bit of work out of you they could.
Not my foreman. The whole thing was very simple. It's just, can you do the 12-hour days? And for people who think they can't do the 12-hour days, my crew consisted of a 76-year-old retired gentleman, a 70 and 72-year-old husband and wife, and one 38-year-old man. I mean, that was my crew that we worked with continuously 12 hours a day. No one had a problem with it. Everybody made it to the end. The 72, 74-year-old couple, this was their 5th season, you know. Just your average couple, you know, retired and like, let's go do the Beet Harvest, you know. So the Beet Harvest, the Express Employment who I worked for, pays for your camping. Your site's included. Base pay, I think, starts at like $12.50 an hour. Goes up from there. So like as a pile operator, I got $3 more an hour, so I made $15.50 an hour.
Wow, that's a good wage.
Anything over 8 is time and a half. So those 12-hour days, you're making time and a half. The 6th day is all time and a half. The 7th day is double time.
And so you could work 7 days a week.
We did work 7 days
You
a
did
week.
work 7 days a week.
Yes. The only thing that will stop you is the weather. If the weather gets too warm, they can't harvest the beets. So if you have a beautiful sunny day, you're not working, darn, go fishing, you know.
And where were you at?
I was in Drayton, North Dakota.
North Dakota.
But there are like 50 or 60 pile sites.
Would you mind sharing with us how much you made for the 3 weeks?
Yes. I brought home total, before taxes, $3,800.
Okay.
We had the shortest season ever.
Oh.
Seriously. Like, we did it so fast that year. Typically, it could go another week or 2 or 3. You know, so you're looking at...
Almost double.
Yeah. So, but for 3 weeks worth of work, $3,800. Heck yeah.
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 That's amazing.
Yeah. It's enough for me to live on for almost a year.
And so you've only done it the one time.
Yep.
But are you planning on going back?
I am. As long as it works out with whatever job I end up taking. If I take another job, a seasonal summer job, a lot of them, you know, it starts, you have to be there October 1st. You need to be there a couple days before that to get all your orientation done.
Well, as I was a work camper for a long time,
Yeah.
and that's mainly what you would probably be doing. And most of the work camper jobs in national forests they require you to be there Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Yeah.
That's the requirement.
Right.
And usually before, because you got to clean up the campground before. And I've having been there and seen this done, after Labor Day it dies, and so they are actually asking people to leave. They want a certain number to stay because a lot of the campgrounds stay open. They're not busy, but they're open, so they have to have some people. But no, and in fact, they will almost always have more people want to stay, and they will lay them off. So no, you would almost certainly be able to get out by early September.
Okay.
So it's something you would pretty highly recommend.
Absolutely.
Unless the person just has a physical reason they can't do the job.
Yes. If you can't stand for 12 hours
Right.
or figure out a way to stand for 12 hours.
Well, thank you, Jody. Is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to share with people about work camping?
Easy to do.
Easy to do.
Easy to do.
Easy to get.
Any tourist town in America needs help.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Very, very
Very
much.
easy to do. Fun.
And, yeah. Not backbreaking labor, just fun.
And if you don't like the job, find another one.
Find another one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that and you learned something, that we answered some of your questions about how to finance this life, and you can, and it's easy and it's fun, and you can do it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.